Hello everyone, welcome to Canteen Cup. My name is Scott, and look, the sun is out. Yay! Today I want to talk about mostly this and that stuff. A couple things I've had on my mind and really wanted to share. I want to start out with what you're looking at right here. This is my property boundary. When I bought the property, I had it surveyed by a surveyor, and they're not cheap. I think we paid, a little over $1,000 to have 6 acres surveyed. But it's important you do that. It's important you know what is yours and what is theirs. And I'm not saying that you need to get this for border wars or anything, but you should know what you're buying. You should know if there are any encroachments, such as somebody built their fence on your property, or any easements, like are there driveway easements or gas line easements or power company easements. And sometimes the only way you can do that is through a survey. Now, if you look to the left of the T-post, you'll see there's a stick with some pink surveyor's tape to it, and that's what the surveyors put there. That piece of wood, which is already kind of turning color and is 6 to 8 months old. It's not that old. However, it is wood, it is out in the weather, and it's going to deteriorate. So what I did is I had gone to my local Tractor Supply, and I had bought a bunch of T-posts. I have a T-post driver, and I walked around that wherever there was a surveyor's stake, I went ahead and put a T-post in. Now that T-post will outlast me, and it doesn't come up easy. I've got it at least a foot, maybe 18 inches in the ground, and so it's not going to come up. Even if somebody wants to pull it up, they're going to have to work at it. So, I just did it, like I said, so I know what's mine and what's theirs. And that way, if I'm building a project, if I decide to put up a fence, I know what my boundaries are. And so I recommend anybody that is contemplating coming out of my people, moving out to the country, that when you buy a piece of property, you go ahead and get it surveyed and know what your boundaries are, know what is yours. Because sometimes somebody's saying, oh yeah, you've got all that out there, just may not be true. When you buy a piece of property, it's typically what's on the deed is what you're buying. Somebody may tell you you're buying 10 acres, but if your deed says you're only buying 5 acres, well, you've bought 5 acres. It's the deed that transfers the rights to the property. So get a survey. Make sure it's, make sure that you're getting what you're paying for. And also too, when you get your deed, make sure your deed is saying what your survey says. Oftentimes, and nowadays, if you get a survey done, the surveyor will give you a plat of your property, and then your lawyers who draw up your deed will incorporate that new plat as a part of your deed. So now you have a picture, so to speak, of what you're buying, and that may be easier for you to understand, what you bought and what the deed says. So important things. I don't want you guys, I want you guys to move out in the country like we did, but you still have to be a little bit careful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk back up to the house. There's a few other things I want to talk about, and maybe I'll do a pocket dump to see what my EDC is today. So hang on, I'll be right back. All right, back for a real quick shot. That's my winter ride coming up. And we planted that, of course, in the winter. It grows in the winter. You probably can't see it real well, but I've got green all over this cleared area. And it's going to do two things for me. One, its roots are going to help hold the soil so I can keep what little topsoil I have. And then number two, come spring, it's going to die and it becomes part of the mulch. It helps me to start creating more topsoil, and then I'll plant the fescue once the ground gets warm enough, and that'll be a grass. And then what I'll do is I'll cut that and let it stay there and mulch. And then in the winter time again, once the fescue goes dormant, I'll plant more winter rye so that come spring it'll die and I'll have a little more mulch. What I'm going to do now is transfer to inside my workshop slash shed, but I wanted to show you something that I use, and that is that. And what that is, that's a magnetic mount for my GoPro camera. I mount it on my tractor, I mount it on my shed sometimes, inside and outside. It's just a real handy thing, so I just wanted to show that. And I'm going to break here for a minute and then transfer to where I can use both hands. So I'll be right back. Alright, so live from inside my shipping containers slash storage shed slash workshop. This is where I get different things done, where I store different things. My tractor's parked right outside, so this is really kind of my man cave, but I like it here because I can hang my camera up using that magnetic mount I showed you up high enough to where you can see what I'm doing here, and also too I have both hands free. So I want to talk about the coronavirus thing a little bit. I don't want to get real crazy about it, and then I'll kind of go through what my EDC looks like. So for those that have been watching the news, the virus is picking up a little bit of steam, and a lot of people are concerned. Our government has been setting up quarantine areas on military bases that are near international airports. I think there's like 10 or 12 of them now. The disease count, I've seen it anywhere between 15 and 19, so somewhere in there, but there is a slight uptick in the frequency. San Diego just got a new case and they've declared a health emergency. CDC is emphasizing concerns that it may be what they're calling a community disease, and it may become more widespread, and that it may survive what we call the current flu season. So is it a time to panic? I don't think so. I mean, that's, I'm not seeing that sort of takeoff point yet. One of the areas I am watching are places like San Diego, Los Angeles, San Francisco, places that have a high population and a high homeless population. The homeless population concerns me because their immune systems may not be as strong as people that have a more stable and maybe even a healthier lifestyle. In other words, they may eat better, they may sleep better, they may exercise more, they may have better hygiene just because they have more access to showers and bathrooms and such. And my fear is if this virus gets into that homeless population, we could see a couple things. One, we could see an uptick in the death rate, and we could see the spread. Because once it gets in that community, there's really nothing to stop it. So I'm kind of watching that, and again, I'm not saying it will happen, because it might not. There's just a lot of question marks when it comes to that. So, but if it does happen, I think it could be serious. So for those of you that live in cities, I think you should be more concerned than those of us that live out in the country, mainly because there's less people where I live. And we have less interactions with international travelers. Not very many people from China want to come out and see where I live. It's just not that exciting. Which is another reason for get out of those cities. I did. And it's a world of difference, and I am so much happier, and you could be too. So what am I doing to prepare for this virus? What are me and my family, what are we doing? Really not a whole lot. We have kicked things up a notch in that we are looking at our food shopping lists, and we are looking at the things that we buy on a weekly or monthly basis, and we're stocking up on some of those items, which is not a big deal, because if nothing happens and this whole thing goes away, well, we just won't shop for those items for the next couple extra weeks. So we'll have them. However, if it does get bad, or we feel we have to stay home for whatever period of time, we won't be that inconvenienced. So we're just kind of going through our normal shopping list. We're not buying anything extra. We may buy a little extra, cough and cold medicine, mainly for comfort. So, NyQuil to sleep at night, and Alka-Seltzer so you can work during the day. But in general, we're not going, bat stuff crazy over that. Of course, everybody should have food storage. There's enough channels out there like mine, and we all preach the same thing. Have food storage. If you don't get some, even if it means driving to Sam's and buying a big bag of rice and a big bag of beans, it's something. Because you don't know. And like I said, it's not an opportunity to go berserk with stuff, but you should be considering it. And same thing with water. In general, I don't think we're going to see power outages, and I don't think we're going to see water interruptions. I just don't see that happening. However, we have water on the property. We have water stored that we can use if need be, and you should consider that too. One of the big things you should worry about is sanitation. Do you have a way to clean yourself? Do you have a way to take care of your waste, your poop, your trash? All that stuff can come back to haunt you, so to speak, if you don't take care of it properly. So consider that. And then lastly, for defense, that's always one of my concerns. Like I said, I just kind of went through what I call my 4 questions. Do you have enough food? Do you have enough water? Can you maintain sanitary conditions? And can you defend your family? Personally, at this point in the game, and probably in the immediate future, I don't see anarchy or chaos or whatever coming about. However, it doesn't mean you should be any less diligent than you are now. And if you are looking at, possible quarantine, social distancing, or whatever, now is the time to maybe pull those firearms out that you haven't looked at in 2 years and make sure they work, make sure they function, make sure they're cleaned and oiled. Maybe go to the range, maybe not. Just depends on when the last time you were there. Make sure you have enough ammunition, at least that you feel comfortable with. I'm not putting a number on that, but that you feel comfortable with. And then put everything back. This isn't a, we're going to war sort of thing. Like I said, I don't see social chaos here, but you know, better if your gun is broken for whatever reason, now's the time to get it fixed, not when you can't, when something bad has happened. So, like I said, I took mine out. I kind of looked at them, cycled the actions, make sure they were lubed and oiled, and put them back. So that's really what we're doing with the coronavirus. We're not getting, you know, bombastic crazy about it. We're just kind of monitoring. I check the news. I check the CDC website. I check a few other places that I trust, and just keep an eye on it. Now, EDC. What does my EDC look like? Well, my EDC, my everyday carry, really isn't that much. I don't carry a lot of stuff. Normally when I'm away from the house, I have my get home bag in my truck, so that augments my EDC. Like I've said in past videos, my EDC is a part of my get home bag. My get home bag is part of my bob. My bob is part of my inch. I'm not coming home. So they all kind of interact, and I don't have a whole lot of redundancy in them, just because by having less redundancy, I'm in my stuff more, and I'm looking at it, and I'm checking it, I'm inspecting it on a regular basis, where sometimes you'll build a bob or something and you'll stick it in the closet and you won't look at it for 2 years, and then when you need it, things are broken, the mice got into it, it's no good. So by me cascading one kit into another, I'm touching my stuff more. Okay, that being said, let's see what I got. All right, in this pocket, behind pocket number 1, I have a wallet. It's one of those minimalist wallets. My youngest son kind of turned me on to this, and I really like it. It's no more leather wallets for me. This is great. I carry a Fisher Space Pen. This goes back to my Army days. We used to have a saying back then that if you really want to survive in the Army and get by, that you practice the 3 Ps, which is to be in the proper place, at the proper time, and in the proper uniform. And then if you were a sergeant or NCO like I was, you have a pen or pencil and a piece of paper. So I've always been in the habit of having a pen and piece of paper. I mean, I'll get to that in just a second. I also carry a little Bic lighter with me. Sometimes I carry a Zippo, but here lately I've kind of liked being less bulky, less stuff, so I carry one. When I first open up a Bic, I usually make a little label for it. This one I opened in August of 2013, and guess what? Still lights. And I have in my get home bag, I have another one, so it's not like I'll die if this one goes out. All right, behind pocket number 2 is my little notebook, nice and thin. I just write things in it. I tend, unless I have to give somebody a piece of information, I typically do not rip the pages out, just so I can go back and reference them. And then what I do is when I fill this up, I have a little box in my office where I keep all my notebooks and journals and stuff, and I'll date this and I'll put it in my box. And if I don't reference this in a year, then I'll throw it out. But in the meantime, I'll take a new one out and stick it in my pocket. All right, let's see what's behind pocket number 3. Not a whole lot, just car keys. Nothing to get excited about. All right, that's got the pockets. Looks like I'm getting an alert or something. Okay. On the side here, I carry a knife. I carry a lot of different knives, so every time I do one of these, I may have a different knife. Today, it's a Spyderco, and I'll say it right this time, a Paramilitary 2. I really kind of like this knife. It reminds me of my buck folding hunter, which I carried for many years when I'm younger, except this knife is about 1/3 the weight. And so I really like it. I don't have a clip on it because I don't like to carry it in my pocket. It's too big to carry in the pocket, and really it's too wide. When I stick this in my pocket with a clip, and then I go to put my hand in my pocket, you know, I'm running into this, or I'm running into this side, depending on which side is in towards the middle of the pocket. It's just too big for my hands and it to be in the pocket at the same time. But I always have a knife. Sometimes I carry a slip joint knife, which is a knife that doesn't lock. Sometimes I carry another locker. I've got a couple others, but I always have a knife, something to cut with. And then finally, most of the time, and I'm not going to say all the time, but most of the time, I have a firearm with me. Sometimes I don't. If I don't have one on me, there's usually one in my truck, or if I'm in my wife's car, there's one in her car. But here lately, I've been carrying one more, and what I'm carrying today is a Glock 42, 380 ACP, 7 shots. Really, and really down here in the southeast where I live, people don't wear a whole lot of clothes. Like I said, here it is the middle of February, and I'm wearing a t-shirt and a hoodie. So at close range, this little 380 with good bullets will do the job. And I like it. I like it because of the size. I sometimes carry my Glock 19, and I carry it either in a pancake holster and inside the waistband. But some of the places I go, I'm still working, even though I'm working for myself. You know, I'm interacting with people, and you don't know, you know, how they'll take or not take something. And so I try to go as minimalist as possible. Also, too, as I get older, I just don't want to carry a lot of weight around. This pistol, and sometimes I'll carry an extra magazine. I'll just slip it in my pocket. It weighs less than the Glock 19 with just one magazine. Not as much bullets, but sometimes I feel that's all I need now. You know, do I upgun if I feel the need? Yes. If I'm going into a, let's say, a bad part of town, then yeah, I may swap out the Glock 19 for this. But in those cases, then I'm not really concerned about what people think. So that's kind of what I carry. Either Glock 42 or Glock 19 or one of my SIGs. The SIG's a little bit bulkier, but nothing fancy. Like I said, this Glock does fine for me. All right, I forgot something, so I'm going to insert this in between my sign off and the last item, which was my gun, and that is I also carry, let me take my hat off, I got hair, see. I carry a civilian dog tag that has some contact information on it in case I run out of the house without my wallet, which could happen. And I carry this little tiny flashlight, which is surprisingly bright. You twist it in a little bit and you get that kind of light, and then you twist it a little more and it goes boom. At night it's really pretty bright, and what's nice about it is, I don't know if you can see that, but that's a micro USB port, and what that means is whatever I use to charge my cell phones, I can recharge this light, which I keep a couple methods in my get home bag to keep my cell phone going. So just want to throw that in there. So we'll see you. Weekend, we have sunshine. It's glorious. Unfortunately, my ground is still a little wet before I can go out there and really start working on it. I want it to dry out a little bit more before I drive my tractor over and start chainsawing those trees. And I'm going to give my wife and myself another week to try to find somebody that they'll just come and take those trees. I'd hate to just cut them up and burn them because there's some really good pine out there, but I can't use it. So we shall see. So everybody have a blessed weekend. Stay safe and stay secure. We'll see you out there.